I am so happy to be sharing with you my campaign platform on housing. As a matter of fact, I hope you'll go to danielbiss.com/housing to see the full plan. There's a lot there and a lot to talk about because this is a central problem in Evanston, and it's a problem in a lot of different ways. We're talking about enabling people to afford to stay in town while also attracting new people in. We're talking about retaining our diversity and integrating our neighborhoods and our schools. And so fundamentally, that's about affordable housing for middle income households, for households in poverty, especially near mass transportation, for seniors, for families with multiple children. And to solve all those different interlocking problems, we're going to have to do a lot and take bold steps. And that can be a lot of change and it can be uncomfortable. But if we get it right, it will truly allow us to realize the values that make Evanston what we are. And so I want to share with you a bold and multifaceted housing plan that's rooted in the values of racial equity, of integration, of accessibility, and of true affordability. Let's get started. I want to start by talking about housing as an equity and racial justice issue. Because look, in our country's history, there has been an unholy alliance of governments, financial institutions, racist homeowners associations, and realtor groups who all came together to enforce segregation. And while that arrangement is mercifully in our past, its legacy lives with us today in dramatic segregation in our neighborhoods and a massive racial wealth gap. And let's not pretend that there is not further inequities being enacted today, especially around access to capital, where black families have a much harder time getting a mortgage than white families. So what do we do? First of all, using publicly available data, identify racial disparities in lending by financial institutions, and the city simply should not do business with financial institutions that don't lend in Evanston's black community. Next, we need to do a full review of the landlord and tenant ordinance and the nuisance premises ordinance. These are ordinances that are well-intentioned, but they often have provisions that perpetuate racial exclusion or economic segregation. We need to overhaul them to get rid of those consequences. Next, we in Evanston are rightly proud of our reparations program. We need to center that in our city's planning process around housing and affordability. And guess what? Over time, we need to expand that program as well. Next, I want to talk about something called exclusionary zoning. And the way I describe this is just by talking about my own house. My family and I, we live in a modest townhome on Central Street that a middle-class family like ours can afford. But we couldn't afford to live in 90% of my own neighborhood. And if you think about it, it's because almost all of my neighborhood is large homes on large lots. And the reason for that is it's illegal to build anything else in the neighborhood. And so exclusionary zoning are rules like single family restrictions or minimum lot sizes or parking minimums or more that make it illegal to build affordable units in much of the city. Now, by the way, there's a close connection between this type of zoning and racial segregation. Originally, a lot of this was put in place to enforce segregation. And so we need to do a comprehensive look at these policies. Here's how you start. We need to do a complete audit of our zoning code through the lens of racial equity and affordability, and bring in experts to help us understand what aspects of our exclusionary zoning practices ought to be changed to have a code that's designed around those values of racial equity and affordability. That needs to be an inclusive process. Everyone in town needs to be at the table, but we need to be prepared to make dramatic changes. Next, let's talk about the inclusionary housing ordinance. Here's how this works. When a new development is created, either the developer has to create a certain number of affordable units, or else they have to put a certain amount of money into the city's affordable housing fund so we can support that many residents. Now, this has been strengthened over the years and it's working better and better, but it still could do even more. Here's how. First of all, we have to do better for households in deep poverty living under 50% of area median income. There's got to be better bonuses to make sure more of those units are constructed, and they have to be near transit so people can get to jobs. Next, we have to have priority for larger units that can accommodate families with children, which is a real challenge. Next, we have to increase the fee that developers pay into the fund if they don't construct the units, because we have to make sure the city has the resources to solve this problem on our own if developers won't do it for us. And finally, we need a clear strategic plan for what we're going to do with the money in that affordable housing fund that's going to exist over the long term, and make sure that our investments in affordable housing are consistent with our values and are moving toward the long-term goal of affordability for everyone. Next, I want to talk about housing as it relates to public transportation, because housing and transportation are just inextricably linked, right? One is about where we live and the other is about how we get to literally everywhere else. So what do? First of all, we acknowledge that the city of Evanston does not control the mass transit systems, CTA, Metra, and PACE, but we can advocate with them. And we can ask them to do a better job, and we can use our Evanston capital investment dollars to set up systems that make it easier for the transit agencies to do the right thing. And that means, for example, investing in bike lanes, investing in walkability to increase accessibility to transit for people who don't own cars. We also need to work with nonprofits and other layers of government to subsidize transit for low-income people. That is a huge need that is not being met right now. And finally, we have to provide financial counseling about transportation options so that Evanston residents are making their decisions about where to live and how to spend their money and how to organize their lives in a way that is based upon all the real information of what different options will cost them. Okay, next, let's talk about subsidies. Because the truth is that we can change all the policy in the world, but there will still be a need for extra resources to support Evanston residents to have their housing be affordable. So where do we start? Let's start with the federal government, where there is a greater opportunity for partnership than there has been for a very long time because of the recent elections. We need to advocate for an expansion of the tenant-based rental assistance program, which is a good program that works to support parents to have rental assistance so they can pursue an education and increase their own earning power. We'd like to see that expanded, and therefore the HOME program, it's a federal program that funds tenant-based rental assistance, needs to be expanded. We got to do stuff on the local level too, considering impact fees for commercial development or other tools to make sure we have adequate resources in our affordable housing fund to do what that fund needs to accomplish. And finally, we have to partner on the state and county level with the Illinois Housing Development Authority and the Housing Authority of Cook County to increase the number of developers participating in the project-based voucher program, because guess what? With that program, a unit stays affordable even if the residents move on. The last item, I know it might sound kind of abstract, but it's on some level the most important of all, and that is we need to be intentional and we need long-term planning. And that's for a very simple reason. This issue evolves slowly. It takes a while to construct new units. When new policies are enacted, it takes a while for new households to move in or for that matter, to move out. And so for an issue like this that rolls out over a long period of time, you need a clear strategy and you need to stick to it. So that means we begin by immediately establishing a comprehensive housing plan that is designed and implemented through a racial equity lens. It's got to be clear about goals and benchmarks, and critically, it has to hold the city accountable. That we cannot have another beautiful plan that sits on a shelf and collects dust. This needs to be a working document that we live by every single day. So that's the plan. And I know it was long, and I know some of it will sound difficult or controversial. And frankly, I know that I started this conversation by enumerating all the problems we have with affordable housing. But listen, what are the problems we have? The problems we have are that people want to live here. People want to come here because we have a great community, but we make it too expensive and too difficult. And if we fix that, not only have we made life more affordable for those of us who already live here in Evanston, which is a wonderful goal, but we have also made it easier for people to join us, to increase our diversity, to enhance our cultural vitality. This is something that if we can get our arms around it will be transformative for this whole community. So please, together, let's get it done.